Welcome everybody, Petri here. Hey, thanks for coming by. We're going to do another exciting watercolor, and we're going to do all the methods, all the techniques that you'll need to accomplish this painting. It's a lot of fun. It's pretty simple. It's more of a two-dimensional look to it, so there's not a lot of serious angles and things like that. We'll get all into it next, so just keep watching. Stick to this video, follow it all the way through, take some notes if you have to. This will be the finished painting, and you can work from this right here. So if you want to work from this painting right here, that's fine too. But you'll see everything, the sketch, you'll see all the steps to the painting, the glazing approach we're using right now. So we're using the glazing technique. And so let's take a little zoom back here. And again, feel free to work from this. I'll leave this on for just about 20-30 seconds so you have a chance to hit pause or take a picture or screen capture. Okay, hello again. We're just getting started back up again here. We just saw the finished painting. We went over all the different details of how to create a nice simple composition like we did with the just a simple house style painting, with some landscape features, some grass, some hills, a little bit of trees, nice sky, and an overall pleasing composition where we kind of showed how using the glazing technique is a really powerful way to kind of unify your entire painting, to give it kind of like a glow or an excitement of just everything blending together for like a very calm, peaceful looking painting. Most of the time I paint alla prima, which that's my favorite way to paint, but glazing is just as interesting and exciting, and a lot of artists use it, a lot of watercolor artists use it, and it even probably the glazing technique can actually, be more like resemble oil painting sometimes a little more than, let's say, doing alla prima painting when you're doing watercolors, because you might be using more like grayed down colors and things like that, and washes where you're mixing more, mixing colors a little bit more and so on, versus using like more straight paint. So in any case, you're the artist. You figure out what you like, you look at different artists, you look at different pictures, you get all your information, you just keep working and working and working and practicing, and you'll just get there. You'll find eventually what you like. So here I'm hoping to show you the glazing technique, which is great. And Arches blocks are great. You can see this is a block, Arches block rough paper. It's the orange cover. So all you got to do is when you find Arches paper, you just look for the orange block like this. And this is it, the orange block. And what's great about the block paper, if you're doing glazing technique where you're going to use a lot of water, like we did in this painting, the reason the block is so effective is your page stays glued down to the rest of this pad. So once you're done putting a lot of water on the paper and it all buckles and gets all bubbly, you know how the water paper just gets all buckled, and that happens on your block paper. But what the beauty of the block is, when you let that dry for like an hour or two, it goes back to its original state of being completely flat on your surface. So when you go back in to paint over your original first wash with the really heavy amounts of water and light washes, when you go over to do your next coat of paint or your next glazing of paint, your paper's going right back to that perfectly flat state, which is what you want, right? You like that nice flat paper. You don't want to have buckles and bubbles everywhere. So this is the solution. The Arches blocks, gummed blocks like this, absolutely cure the problem of buckled paper. So all you do is you paint on your first glazing, like we're going to show in just a second. After that, you let that dry 100% until that paper's completely flat or almost completely flat, and then you're ready to go for your second glazing and finish up your painting. And it's a beautiful way to paint, and I'll show you here, like this is one of the paintings I did just a couple months ago on YouTube. We did a nice little window scene here. You just it's very simple. When you're completely done with your painting, and you want to like put it in a frame or take it out and just pin it up on your wall, tape it up, give it as a gift to someone, maybe make a card out of it or something, whatever you want to do. It's simple. You just take your pen knife, like a nice Swiss Army knife, and you just trim around the edges of it inside the like this. And you just go right around. Switch around here, and we do the same thing. We just go right around. We just take our pen knife and we just carefully angle it on a 45-degree angle. It cuts the best like this. Sometimes in the past I've gone off a little bit on my trimming, and then it winds up tearing the paper at the edges. So if you just keep that good sharp pen knife on a 45-degree angle, and you go nice and slow and just work it, be careful to go real slow, and you just keep trimming around until that's it. You have a perfect sheet of paper like that with your painting on it. And then you're ready to frame it or pin it up or put it into a book. You might want to have one of those hole punchers. You can punch out some holes on your paintings and put them in a nice binder. Keep track of your paintings. Just keep stockpiling them, and you can look back and reference them. So we'll put that over here on the side, and you're ready to start another with the block again. The arches block here. You're ready to start another painting. You got the block. This is where you would, when you're all finished 100% with your painting and everything's 100% dry, that's when you'll go in here with your pen knife and just start trimming around and then removing your next page off the block. But if you just leave the block as it is, just like this, we paint on this, and if it buckles when we're putting on lots of water, no problem. We let this dry for an hour or two, come back in an hour or two, and that page is going to be complete. Your watercolor paper is going to be completely flat, so you can go over with your next overwashes and your over glazing to to get your painting completed, and it's going to be easy because you're not dealing with all kinds of bubbles in your paper. So that's the workaround for anyone that's having problems with buckling paper, bubbles, and all kinds of things like that on your watercolor paper. You buy the blocks. They're a little bit, you might use this for your finished paintings. You might not want to practice on this, but you would definitely want to use this for your finished watercolor art. If you're going to be going into a gallery show, or you're going to be doing some, showing of your work, and you want to frame these things, and you want to really have an easy time painting and creating your paintings, absolutely the way to go. So I'm going to set this up like so. All right, so I'm going to take a quick break. We'll come right back and we'll start the drawing, and we'll get started. All right, be right back. Okay, we're back, and we are ready to start our drawing phase here. Let's do our preliminary sketch, and then we'll get into our drawing. On this one, it might be kind of more of a simple drawing where we don't have to do a contour drawing. We could just do like our basic preliminary sketch first, lay things out, and we might just be good to go, and we can start painting. Let's see how it goes. Always remain flexible. Remember that in watercolors. Be flexible when you're creating your artwork, when you're drawing, your painting. Be willing to just have a good time. Be flexible. You can always start a new painting. There's no worries about it. Key thing is just keep working at it. Keep practicing. Have a lot of fun time just doing little small swatches and little practice exercises. Paint an apple, paint an orange, paint a couple flowers in a vase. Have some fun just doing little practice exercises. Those are really tremendously helpful. You really get used to watercolor in the medium by just doing small exercises. Then when you get into a larger painting, you feel more comfortable. You're used to the medium. You know how it kind of works. You have the feel for it. So just keep working at it. Some of you I know are beginners. Some are pros at it already. So I'm just, kind of preaching to the choir here. But let's get started here. First thing I'll do is I just want to get my tape. I'm going to use some artist tape, drafting tape. You can use drafting tape, artist tape. This is 3M tape, which is really excellent. 3M. 3M, it's drafting tape pretty much. This is actually Scotch tape, drafting tape. This works really great. And we're just going to make a nice border around our block. We're using Arches rough paper, the orange page. The cover page is orange, Arches rough paper. Excellent. It's a gummed block paper, so you have a great time of painting, you can put tons of water on your paper for your first wash, your glazing technique. Tons of water on there. The paper's gonna buckle, go all over the place. No big deal. A couple hours later, might take a little more than a couple hours. It'll be back to perfect working condition. It'll be nice and flat, back nice and flat on top of this page here. That's what you want. You want to have the paper flat, easier to work on, much easier than trying to work on buckled paper. There's nothing worse, really. For me, every artist is different. Some artists do not mind working on buckled paper. That's fine too. I sometimes do as well. Depends on what I'm doing, what kind of style of work we're doing. But okay, we have our paper taped down. And we always make sure to really, if we can, I always like to really make sure that this portion, the tape down here, is really sealed well. So I'll go over an extra little bit with a tip of a watercolor brush just to seal that bottom tape there, that portion of the tape, because that's where the water is going to keep dripping down and sitting there, and we don't want it to drip underneath the border. If we can, it'd be better if we could just keep that nice crisp white frame around our painting with our tape. That works great. It looks really good. If you take this painting when you're completely done, 100%, and you take it out and trim it off your block, it already has a really beautiful border around it, a nice white matte almost, and then you can pin it up on a wall and it looks just great. So we're going to continue on here. We have our tape. Let's start our sketch, and we're going to use just a mechanical pencil. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use a reference photo, but it's someone else's artwork. So I work from other people's artwork all the time. I think it really helps to paint from other people's work, because you're looking at exactly the same colors they're using. And essentially when you're looking at a painting, you're seeing the techniques, even though you might not have them listed out. When you're looking at a painting, you're sort of, in your mind, you're looking at the painting of someone else's work, and you're kind of saying to yourself, how did they do that? Oh, I can see this, I can see that. So as you look at other people's paintings and you paint from those paintings, you're actually going to start to kind of critically look at everything and kind of pick up on things, so that when you're going in to do your painting, you're going to be trying to do the same idea, get the same look. So that's important. And sometimes too, it's fun just to do your own look, what you want to do, and not have to worry about, maybe copying someone else's techniques or whatever. But in a general sense, if you are looking at someone else's paintings that you really enjoy and think are great looking, that's fantastic. You'll learn a lot from just trying to work from their work, because you'll be trying to do the same thing, copy it, and you'll learn from that tremendously. So let's do it. Let's do just a simple drawing. Let's see here. We'll do a house here. And we're going to have this is going to be like a hill. So we're going to have a hill. And we'll have lots of grass, weeds, all kinds of interesting stuff over here. And then we're going to go with our house. Let's do our roof area. And okay, so we have the roof line here. And I'm just going to go over this is about halfway here on the paper. So let me turn down that light a little bit. Okay, I hope everyone can see the pencil lines here. Maybe I'll go over the pencil lines a second time. And then we're going to... Okay, so we're going to just remember this roof, the eave of this roof here is going to go over to here. And then we're going to have another All right, that's all we have to do. This is kind of simple, right? So we basically just made almost like two sections of a house, left and right side. So this is a nice, really cool feature here of the house. It's got two sections. There's a roof here, a gable roof, just a simple A-frame roof like that. And the same thing over here, another A-frame roof, a gable roof here. And if anything, sometimes if you think you might have an angle wrong or something like that, that's no problem. You can start again. Let's just have a good time with this. I'm not going to worry so much. I just want to get the basic techniques of everything. And then let's do a window over here. Let's do a window there. And another window over here. Like that. And let's do the same thing. Let's do a window over here. And then maybe another window over here. And maybe a door down here, first floor. Okay, so now we did a door and some windows. Simple drawing. And the fun thing we're going to do here is we're going to try to just use the glazing technique and really get some beautiful wash on here. And then once that's completely 100% dry, we're going to come back and do our overwashes. So let's remember, we're going to have fun here. We're going to mix up some real beautiful washes here and use a large brush and just get the paint on and see how it goes. We're just going to have a good time of getting some really good wet washes all on the top of this. Our first wash, our first glazing, and we'll see how it goes. But I think you're really going to enjoy this. And we can also, let's do, maybe we'll do something, maybe we'll do a chimney here. So we could do a chimney there. And then maybe another chimney over here. So we'll do two chimneys too on top to make it a little more interesting, so that when we're looking at this painting, we're going to kind of see some interesting interruptions in this line that's going across with some chimneys. That looks good. We might do maybe a we'll do antenna, a TV antenna there too. Okay, and perfect time for another break. And I always mention, if you haven't subscribed, please subscribe. Just hit that subscribe button right below this screen here, right to the this side here, just below the screen. You'll see a little red button, subscribe. You click that, you'll be notified each new video that comes out that we do here on my channel. You'll be alerted. You can check it out. Maybe watch the first minute or two if you think you'll like it. You can watch it, and work along with us. Or if you're not so interested and you might want to wait till another video we have, maybe it's something that you might like more, like flower paintings or seascapes, you could just wait for the next one. But if you stick with this channel, you're always going to find something you like in the watercolor medium, and we're always working in watercolors here. So and we're also doing some techniques and some interesting studies too along the way, just to keep ourselves strong in our fundamental knowledge of watercolor and the techniques, the design of paintings, the colors, the little nuances of watercolor that are really important to learn. So you're always going to learn that here. So come on back, hit that subscribe button. If you hit the notification bell, which is right next to the subscribe button, that means you'll actually be alerted on your phone or your laptop or your computer that we're just made a new video and you can check it out. All right, we'll be right back. Okay, we're starting back up again. Always remember, if you need to adjust your drawing before you start painting, you can do that. Let's do that here. I noticed my roof could be a little better. I went off on one of my angles a little bit. So always, it seems to me that when you actually take a break, every 20 minutes, half an hour when you're painting, you'll come back and you'll maybe see things you didn't see when you were kind of working, because it really is true that our concentration only lasts so long. Usually about 15, 20 minutes, our concentration starts to lessen and decrease. So when we lose our concentration, sometimes I notice myself anyway, I go off on some of my lines sometimes, and my lines don't look as good, or I miss some angles, and that's what happened here. So what I'll do is I'm going to just erase a little bit of the roof angle here so I can get more of a realistic look to the roof. So let me do that. I'm just going to do that. A little bit of a change there. And I think that looks a little better. A little more of an angle on that. And then once we paint this in with darker paint, we won't see the pencil lines or any of the corrections we made. So no worries on that portion. And all right, let's start painting. So what I'll do here is let me tape down my palette. I always tape down my palette when I'm working, especially on YouTube. I think it's kind of annoying to see something moving around on camera. So we'll just tape this down. I think for this wash we could use a square brush. I'm going to use a Da Vinci flat brush or a square brush like this. It's a it's a number 30 on the metal portion of the brush. It's a synthetic flat brush. So we'll use that. If you want, you can mix up the paints with a round brush so that it's a little easier to mix up the paints. So we're going to do a color scheme that we're going to have some raw umber, cerulean blue. So we're going to get lots of cerulean blue in there. Raw umber, cerulean blue. What else will maybe some raw sienna. Raw sienna is a little more transparent. Yellow ochre is a little more opaque, so that might be something we want to kind of keep an eye on. Let's keep our washes maybe a little more transparent. Okay, so we got the raw umber here, cerulean blue, maybe a little bit of purple, ultramarine violet. Maybe we'll put some ultramarine violet down here. Nice atmospheric type color. So with these colors, real simple, basically raw sienna, raw umber, cerulean blue, and then a little bit of purple. Ultramarine violet I use, Winsor Newton. That'll be a really nice first wash over the whole painting. Now what I'm going to do is, once I figure out my colors, then I say to myself, how much am I going to need of these washes? And then I say, I'm going to need more than what I have here. So let me add more paint and more water, because I don't want to run out in the middle of doing my painting or my glazing. So when you're doing glazing paintings like this, it's real important that you mix up enough or a little extra. Does that make sense? So that when we're doing our glazing, we don't run out of paint, and then you have to start mixing, and you might have an issue trying to mix some paints quickly to try to get it all in on one wash. So let me adjust my phone here a little bit. I'm having an issue with the thing shutting off here. Let's do this. Okay. So again, I'm going to make sure I have plenty of paint, plenty of washes mixed. And here you can see lots of water, but not excessive, just enough to mix our washes. There we go. And lots of purple. So you see, that's what we have here. Now, we use the round brush to mix the washes, put them out into the palette. Now we have our flat brush. We'll use that to paint it into the painting here. So let's start with a little. I'm going to mix all these three and some of this. Then a little bit of water I add to it from the pail, the water bucket. Blue, cerulean blue. And remember, we're getting just the first glazing on here. We're not going too crazy worrying about see, I'm just doing like X's. So we can just work with the X brush technique, you know, just get some X's on there. Then what you can do is once we're done with these glazings, we can go in and maybe use a tissue and blot up a little bit of paint if we want to in certain areas to maybe lighten it up a little bit. But you can kind of see we have more purple on the bottom of the painting, I think. But I'm just using the same colors and just, that's all. We're done. There we go. How simple is that? A nice, beautiful light wash of our colors we just put out in the palette. Then what we do is we say, all right, let's go in with a tissue, get a clean tissue and say, oh, let me have some lights in maybe a few of the windows, or maybe one window, maybe this window here. And you lift up and look at that. Oh, beautiful. Whoo, look at that. Oh, that's beautiful. Another little bit there. Lift it up with your tissue. This will leave dark. Door, we're going to leave dark there. And I think that's it. If we add that little bit of light right there in this window, that's going to be really nice. We're going to make some dark shadows, and we're going to pretend we can see through this window, through another window on the other side of this wall. So we're actually making it like three-dimensional, where you're seeing through this area of the house to the other side of this, and the sky color on the other side. So maybe let's add a little sky color here. I'll take my round brush. There we go. Look at that. A little sky color, just an additional blue, cerulean blue wash in that window. Once we lightened it up, we just took a tissue, blotted up some of that wash we just did, add a little cerulean blue in there, and that automatically keys you in on the fact that you're looking at some sky color through this building. And you'll see how we're going to make this window here when we're creating our second wash, our second glazing. You'll see how we're going to do that. We're going to create a see-through window here where you're going to see through the building and then onto the other side of the painting, on the other side of this section of this house, which will give you that real beautiful see-through three-dimensional feel to your painting. That adds a really big bit of interest to your paintings. But now it's just, let's wait. We have to wait till this dries 100%, until your paper goes completely flat again, and that might take an hour or two. You can use a blow dryer. That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to take a break now, turn on the blow dryer, and see if I can dry this up a bit, the wash. But it looks better if you let it dry naturally, obviously, because the actual washes will slowly go into the paper and create a nice, beautiful effect of three-dimensionality into your paper. If you blow dry it, it's going to dry quickly, and it won't the wash won't penetrate into the paper as much, and it doesn't look as good. So if you want a really beautiful look, let it dry naturally for a couple hours or so, or overnight. If you don't mind and you're just doing this as a practice exercise, by all means use a blow dryer and dry it up quick, and we can start on the next glazing, the second wash, going over the top of this. So I just dried up some of the washes around the tape. Okay, we'll be right back, and we'll have more fun doing that second glazing. You're going to see how this really comes together and looks absolutely phenomenal once we get those second glazings on those darker washes. Hey, it's Chris, and we're back. We took a break. We let the paper dry. Now this paper, like I said, the longer you wait, maybe like 2, 3, 4 hours, it'll be completely flat for you. This was pretty good. This is a tiny bit buckled, but hardly at all. So this is like fine to start working on it again. So that's what we're going to do here. And we have some leftover washes in our palette. Purple down here. So we can reuse these mixes. As you can see, I'm going to reuse these because we're going with a really dark wash over the top of this. So now we're going to make a wash for the roof. Let's do the roofs. So let's go with burnt umber, French ultramarine, a little bit of French ultramarine, burnt umber, burnt sienna. Let's mix all kinds of interesting colors. But mostly let's stick to the colors we used to start with. Raw umber, cerulean blue, purple, and then you can introduce a little bit of burnt umber into that and a little bit of French ultramarine blue maybe, and a little more extra French ultramarine blue. Let's try that, see how that looks. I'm just trying to mix it up on the brush here because okay, and this is the great thing about the square brush, the flat brush. You can get great looking flat washes like this. So look at how quick we go. 2, basically in 2 passes of the brush, we've got that entire roof done. Does that not look great? And it's looks great. We got a lot accomplished in just a few brush strokes. Let's go over here and let's do the other side. Like that. And let's keep going. Let's get the other side here of the... We're seeing just a little bit of the other side of this wall here. The shadow side of this wall. And we just use that flat brush like that. Look at that. Perfect, perfect. Look at that. Excellent. Okay. You can see how using a flat brush like this, and this is like about 1.5 inches wide. Let's see, do I have a tape measure around here? This is 1 inch wide. So this brush is just a little bit more than 1 inch wide. So if you're using this size brush, you can really cover a lot of ground quickly, and you'll have more fun with your watercolors and less stress because you're getting more completed. Let's do that. Let's keep picking up the same wash we just used over here on the left side. We're just going over here to the right side, and we'll get the rest of our roof washes completed. Make sure to use your original colors mostly, the raw umber, the blue. There we go. Look at that. So now we've completed our roof tops here. We did the shadows over here. And we'll continue working on this. Let's work on the foreground here. Let's use these colors. So we're going to stick right here with these. Again, we're trying to basically, if this makes sense, we're trying to use the same colors repeating over and over and over, no matter what section we're working in on this painting. We always want to keep using the same colors to keep the whole painting unified so that you're seeing the same colors everywhere. So the first wash, again, the first glazing, we're using the glazing technique. You're seeing the lighter versions of all the same colors. Then when we're getting into the darker colors, the darker tonal values, if you want to say, or darker tones, it's going to be the same colors, just more paint, less water. And we're doing the same thing. We're making sure we use the same pigment, the same colors over and over as we keep getting the darker tonal values in the painting completed. So here we're going to do now we're going to add some green to the mix here. Let's use some sap green, but a lot of the raw umber. So we're just adding a little bit of the green, but lots of raw umber, which was the main color we were using before. And let's see if we can get this in. So we're just going to do that. We're going to get lots of color on there. Don't worry about we're going to lots of raw umber mixed in with that little bit of sap green, some blue, cerulean blue, and again these colors here, burnt umber, French ultramarine blue. Scrub around, have a good time. Don't worry about it. Don't stress, just let's get the washes in. There we go. We're just covering the paper with the brush. Move around the brush, different kind of strokes, doing like some X's, some X strokes, like that. Now, we're going to get our round brush, number 12, as a number 10 round watercolor brush, Da Vinci Maestro. Go in, grab the same colors, and let's splash around a little bit. Got to splash. Get some variety in there. Get some splashes along like that. Burnt umber. Now we're going to mix in some more burnt umber, French ultramarine blue, more cerulean blue. And then we just make some lines for the ground and the hills here to kind of just lead the eye through, as if we're trying to lead the eye of the viewer through these areas. And if you make those lines like so, it's going to give you that feel of the hill. And maybe you can go darker down here at this lower portion. Raw umber, a little bit of sap green. Okay. Okay, we are doing a good job here. Splashing is effective. You can also take some tissue if you want and blot in a little bit of light. Just a few spots here and there, just to break up the monotony of the wash. There we go. You can also, I'm now looking around, I have my Ron Ranson medium size hockey brush. Going to dampen it up a little bit. So I just dampen up my Ron Ranson hockey brush. And then we'll just splay out the color of the brush hairs like so. Just get some color on there. And I'm just going to go in and get some more color, like that. And then you see how we have the brush hairs like that. And then we can just do a little bit of here and there, a little of those brush strokes like that. Really, you're painting thousands of weeds and grasses and just a few brush strokes like that. Then we go in, we get a little more darker, French ultramarine blue, sap green, and then we keep sticking with the same colors, cerulean blue, raw umber, got to have that in there. Try to keep that the predominant color in your mixes all the time. The original colors we started with, that's all you have to remember. Whatever original colors you started with, 4 or 5 different colors, keep those the predominant colors all the time when you're putting in different washes, and you will have a unified looking painting that looks really beautiful. And I'm just putting in some darker darks here. Not quite dark enough. Let's go with burnt umber, French ultramarine blue, raw umber. That's better. I'm just trying to get some weeds and grasses in there. And that looks pretty good, I think. Just kind of, here and there. That looks fine. Okay, now let's go back to our round brush, number 10, and then we go back in with our same colors. Cerulean blue, raw umber, pick up a little bit of that burnt umber and French ultramarine blue to mix in there just to get it a little bit darker. And let's put a shadow on this wall here. That's all. Just some shadowing there. And then if you want to make it a little more interesting, you take a tissue and you blot up a few spots here and there, like that. Automatically, when you make some changes to that wash that's looking pretty consistent all throughout, you take it and you interrupt it with some tissue. You'll find that you'll create a more interesting look to it. So it'll look like there's some light bouncing around, some shadows, and that'll be fine. Okay, now let's also create a little bit of shadowing underneath the eaves of the roof. So we're going to go with some more cerulean blue. A little bit of purple. And let's just go across like that. And all that does is just let us know there's some light some sunlight. It might be a hazy day. I think it's a hazy day right now. There's no bright sunlight, it's just hazy. But we do have shadows, and that's what you're seeing here, light shadow under the eaves of the roof. All is well. And we can add a little raw sienna. Put some raw sienna here and there in that shadow so that it interrupts the consistent pattern of the wash. And let's cover that there. And we can do a little lifting here and there. Okay, let's do some chimneys. Burnt umber, burnt sienna. A little bit of cerulean blue as well. Warm and cool, everywhere warm and cool. Always mix your warm and cools. Maybe we'll put in a little cadmium red. And I'll blend that in. If you think you went with too much cadmium red, you can always lift up with your tissue and then go back in with some more burnt sienna and relax that color a little bit, make it more mellow. And let's do over here, do this chimney. And again, a little more cadmium red. Let's make these stand out a little bit, make them look a little interesting, the chimneys. And maybe we'll mix a little darker colors for the chimney pots. Like that. And then we can also add a little bit of that red here and there into the washes. This has to be dry though. You wouldn't want to add this into these roof washes unless you knew they were really, that wash was completely dry, because it would really disrupt and really make the wash, it would cause like really unpleasant looking spots and marks. So that's, and then you can take this and unify the painting a little more, add some of that red, cadmium red and burnt sienna, add that to the rest of the painting here and there. Like that. You would just add it to the painting. This way we have a unified color scheme. Again, we're always trying to add the same colors over and over in our painting to give that unified effect. Just like that. All right, so we've accomplished a lot. Let's take a break. Again, I always mention, please subscribe if you haven't subscribed. Also, the notification bell down to the right next to the subscribe button. This way you get our new videos every week. If you're new to watercolors, this is a great place to come and learn a lot of new things. We always cover the basics here, so you're always getting the basics with our channel here on YouTube. And if you're a pro and you've been painting for many years, maybe you're coming from a oil background and you're trying to do some watercolor painting now, you'll learn a lot of the details of the watercolor technique here, which is a lot different than when you work in oils. So whatever, or even if you're doing, if you've worked with pastels and now you're coming and you're looking, no matter what medium you actually have worked in a lot, if you transition over to watercolors, this is just a great place. You come and you learn a lot. I'm always trying to put in as many details as I can in my videos as possible so that you learn all of the really fine details of watercolor, the techniques, the methods, explaining the colors, and a lot of design. Also, we cover design so that you have a good basis for creating your paintings with solid design principles. So here you can see we have dominance. This painting is a powerful example of dominance. When you look at this painting, you are confronted with a beautiful house. Bam, it's right there. It's in your face. Gorgeous. Look at that. Versus, other times you'll see artists, they paint a little house only like 1 inch by 1 inch size, and the rest of the painting is all, fields and trees and things like that, and sky wash. So here, I hope you understand, this is a powerful example of dominance in your design. So we cover everything here. We cover the basics and fundamentals of watercolor and design, colors, techniques, everything. So come on back. We're going to finish up in a few minutes or so with our last bit of washes in the windows. We're going to do some exciting washes here in this window to create some powerful light and three-dimensional effects so that your painting is going to look like it's got lots of depth and three-dimensional feel. So come on back in just a few minutes. We'll finish up this painting. And again, please subscribe. We're always having fun here every week. And as you know, we create paintings every single week here on my channel. So you'll always have interesting content to come back to over and over again. So let's get back into it in about 5 minutes. I'm going to take a 5-minute break if it's okay. Please let me take a 5-minute break and I'll be right back. Okay. All right, you've made it. We're getting now close to the finish line here, doing our details. I want to thank everyone, too, for coming into the comments section of YouTube, for all those great comments. Thanks, everyone, for the constant appreciation and kind thoughts and messages you send me. We have a lot of fun here. We do a lot of great work. We're going to continue on the path of learning more about watercolor. It doesn't matter if you're a beginner, if you're just starting to find yourself in the watercolor medium, and you're really, starting to really get a great handle on things, or whether you're a pro and you've been painting for many years, maybe you're coming from a different medium, like pastels or oils or acrylics or what have you. We do everything watercolor here, so I'm glad you're here. I'm sure you're doing a great job out there. It's just a matter of practicing, simple as that. We do our exercises here every week. We create compositions here, paintings. You can make these finished paintings that you can frame, put in your house, or give them as gifts, or you can just work on these as practice work. So you're just, whatever videos you like and you think you want to work on, you just work on those. I know some of you might not like paintings like this. You might just like to watch for fun, and you might like flower paintings more. So I'm always doing constantly new videos with all types of content and all kinds of different subject matter. So we do flowers, we do seascapes, landscapes, boats, cityscapes, city scenes. We do still life, figure work, portrait work. We do everything here. So anything watercolor, you come on by here. You can learn all the ideas, the techniques, the methods. You'll be fine. You'll pick up everything as you go. It's just always a slow process of learning new things each time you work. And over years and years of painting, maybe 1 or 2 years, you've learned 20, 30 new techniques and methods. Your watercolor paintings are going to get a lot better. So this is just another fun way of learning. This happens to be a glazing technique where we're doing glazings. We put the first wash down, and then we're using the same colors over and over in the painting, just making them more, darker. So we're using less water is really essentially the basics of it. We're using a lot of water for the first wash. We let that 100% completely dry. Now we're to the point where we're doing our overwashes. We're using less water, more paint, more pigment. So let's continue on. I think right here we're ready to do the window details. So I'll get a smaller brush. This is a number 6, a Da Vinci travel brush. So let's use and I'm going to use the same colors as we've been using all along. So burnt umber and French ultramarine blue is a good base for the dark, but then we have to use our raw umber and cerulean blue because that's really the dominant colors we were using in the painting. So let's recall that we want to keep using the same colors that we've been using all along. So now let's add a darker dark French ultramarine blue, burnt umber, and so we get a really, really nice dark, and then we're going to have a fun time here. Look at that dark. Wow. You might be thinking, wow, what's happening? Let's make this a dark like that. And let's do the window pane here. And let's do the same thing here like that. Okay. And I add a little bit of wash to this just to give it a little bit of a wash, a little bit of some tonal value there. And all we're doing is just adding in the darks of the windows and the doors. So please work from my finished painting. Burnt umber, French ultramarine blue, we're making some really good darks here. It's darker over here on this window, so we're going to leave this darker. This is a little lighter. And we'll do the same thing up here, darker up here on the top. Like that. Darker up top, then we can go with cerulean blue. And then more darks, burnt umber, French ultramarine blue, raw umber, and we just keep going here, adding darks. And you'll be surprised how good this looks. Look at that. We're going to probably have to let the windows dry some for probably an hour, and then we can go in and actually do some beautiful highlights with some simple titanium white with a little touch of yellow ochre in the top of the paint. So we just try to make this titanium white with a little touch of yellow ochre in the top of the paint tube, and we'll do a couple little highlights here and there to bring more light into the painting, more highlights. So we'll do that, but it's got to dry 100% before you add in any of those highlights. So we're going to let this all 100% dry, but we can also do this here. Let's do our antenna. So we're going to do our antenna here. It's an old TV antenna, maybe before, this is in the 1980s, 1970s and 1980s. We had the old TV antennas. We have some interesting color up here and up here. Some more of the cadmium reds and the burnt siennas. We can actually add some down here. There's no reason why we can't add some flowers. Let's add some flowers down here while we let this all dry, the windows dry. Let's just burnt sienna and some cadmium red. Put some of that in the brush. And we'll splash some on here. And maybe dab a little bit, so we just create like some flowers here. So there's a little bit of a flower bush, something here. We'll come back and do a little more interesting, maybe something here too. So you create wherever you want to add this, you can add this. It's up to you. But not too much, just a few spots here and there to excite the person that's looking at this. They're gonna look around the whole painting. They're not just gonna get kind of stuck on one area. We're gonna have the person that's looking at this painting want to look around and kind of see, oh, there's some beautiful roofs and windows, and there's some, oh, chimneys, exciting color. Oh, down here some flowers. So it's kind of a game of trying to have your viewer that's looking at your painting look around the painting and kind of find some interesting details here and there, and just look around and have a fun time looking through the painting. And you might have one spot that you might want to have the main focal point. That might be this window here. So the person that's looking at the painting might say, okay, I'm looking around, some red flowers and chimneys and windows, but they find this window here the most exciting part of the painting, because you're kind of seeing through the building to the other side, which is really interesting. So let's hope that that's the case, and we can get the viewer to look at our painting and be excited by it. I'll do some very minimal details here with the needlepoint brush here. Again, this is more a couple details with the needlepoint brush is fine. We don't want to go with too many details, just enough. There we go, fine. We might want to also add some blue and purple to those flowers. And that'll kind of harmonize with the blue and purple that we've already used. So I'll mix up some blue and purple, cerulean blue and ultramarine violet, and I put that in there too. Maybe some more raw umber too, just to kind of blend it. Blend things together a little bit. And what else can we do? We can make some bushes over here. And we make them a little bluer, cooler in color. It's in the distance. So that's all. You could even add in some splashes over here and then introduce the French ultramarine blue, burnt umber, sap green with our needlepoint brush, and then we can just make it a little darker. Perfect. We have a little bit of another interesting place the viewer can look and see over here some bushes and trees and we can take a little color and put some color in this window. It's a little bit light. And I just wanted to see if I can make that look more interesting. This doesn't look so great. For some reason, it does not look the way I thought it would, so no problem. We'll take a little paint, and I'm just going to go over that. Always remember you can change things in your painting if they don't look correct or something doesn't look proper. No big deal. You can change it around. Okay, we can still work and continue to work. Let's do some clapboard siding. We could just mix some of these here. Some of these washes of colors that we have. We'll keep it on the lighter side. You can see lots of water. And then let's do some, just some very light lines we're pretending we're that's all. Same here. And I'm just doing some real easy light lines just to note that there is some siding on here, some clapboard siding. Then in a few spots we go a little darker, so we add a little darker. That's all kind of add some interesting details here. And that really makes this much more interesting and exciting, having those clapboards on there. So remember, use that needlepoint brush you have and get those really fine clapboards in there. It just takes it to the next level, the painting, if you're going to add these clapboards in there. If you just left it, you know, the kind of plain white paper, you know, with the wash on there, it looks good that way too. You could maybe splash and do a little bit of splashy washes and maybe make it like a stucco looking house. But if you want to make it look a clapboard house with some wood siding, this is the way to do it. You just add those lines in there very easily with the needlepoint brush, you know, nice and loose. You don't want to be with a ruler trying to measure everything out. And you don't have to worry about that. You just get in there and get the idea of some lines, and that's all you have to do. And when you step back and look at it, it looks absolutely fine. The only thing we have to do now is add some titanium white and yellow ochre mixed together for some highlights here and there. So we'll come back in about 5 or 10 minutes. We'll let this dry a little bit, and then we'll do those final little bit of highlights of light, and we should be 100% complete. Okay, so we'll be right back. You've made it. You're coming back again for more? Come on, let's go. Let's keep going. So we have our painting almost 100% complete, but yes, you can always make it better. You can always make your watercolor look better, but there is a point too where you have to stop and say, let's not do too many details. It'll ruin the painting. But here we still have some room for improvement and some more details without going overboard. And I'll show you how we're going to do that right now. So what I'm looking at here is how can I build a little more three-dimensionality to my painting? And I think I can do it. I have an idea of how to do it. Often you might see in some of my paintings that we've done over the years, those of you that have been watching for quite a while, I like to add, maybe a tree in there in the foreground to push the painting back. So to push this house back into the painting and make it look a little more distant and have it feel more like there's more, it's more three-dimensional. You can add some things in the foreground. So we can do that here. And I have some ideas of how to do that that'll look really interesting. So we're going to do that. But it's a surprise, so you have to wait until we get to it. And what else do we have? Some highlights, we said. So let's do our highlights first. Well, wait a minute. Let's do our interesting fun. I'm using some molding here. This is just some molding I bought at the local big box store when I was doing some trim around the house. So you can use this to get a straight line. You can use a ruler also and draw a pencil line. However, using something like a molding or a piece of wood or even a really good sturdy ruler will work as well. We can get a straight line and just paint it right in instead of worrying about drawing it and everything like that. So let's do that. So I'm going to take some raw umber, burnt umber, French ultramarine blue, and that gives us a pretty good dark. Okay, now we're going to want to say, let's do a clothesline. What a great idea, right? Clotheslines, they can add dimensionality to your painting. So we can use something that's very common that we see all the time when you look at houses and paintings and things like that. In artwork, you'll see many times that there's clotheslines in the backs of houses, in the backyards and things like that. So that's something very common. Let's do that to push this house back a little bit. And where are we going to put that clothesline? Well, we'll make one pole here for the clothesline closer to the door, the back door here, and then we'll make the other one over here a little larger and taller. So let's do this. Let's add it right here, maybe. I think that would look good right about there. So I'll go over to this side here, and I'm just going to take this paintbrush, load it up with lots of paint. And then I'm just going to go right down the painting like that. And that's all we have to do. Then I just make this and I would say we can leave it. We can leave the clothesline, a little bit hit and miss. You don't want to have it I guess what I'm saying is you don't have to have it solid the whole way. Leave it, leave some broken bits of paper there, You don't have to, you can just do one right across the paper and that's good. You don't have to worry about getting it exact whatsoever. One line across there, we already know, okay, that's, then we start thinking, then we want to get our viewers starting to think, what is that? And then we know, well, if we add another one here, let's do that. This one here we're going to make with a smaller brush. And we can also use our ruler or wood trim. Let's use a ruler. We can use a ruler here, like this. Let's do the same thing. We'll make this burnt umber, French ultramarine blue, raw umber. It's going to be smaller in size. It's next to the door. And let's just go upwards and do this. Like that. Okay. Now, the thing that's going to really make this, something that we know what it is, 100% is some line. So that's all we have to do. We have to put some line, some clothesline here. Let's do it. Get some water, mix in some, it doesn't have to be just a little bit of a darker, medium wash. And then we just have to do a quick little upward like this. So you practice it a few times with your brush. We have our needlepoint brush here, and we say, okay, the line's going to go like this, the clothesline. So let's make sure we practice it a few times above the area, and then when we're ready and we feel confident, then we just bang it in. Look at, just like that. There we go. Now, what we will do is add some titanium white and yellow ochre to a few spots here where the dark areas are to highlight that clothesline. Let's see how it works. Okay, we have our yellow ochre already in the white paint. Let's add a little more yellow ochre. Mix that into the top of your paint. No water, don't add water to your brush. Dry your brush before you do this part here. You want to keep this dry, like you just want straight paint with a little bit of yellow ochre in there. You don't want to have water in the top of your, you want to keep it dry is what I'm saying. Okay, so now carefully look at where your brush went across the paper and then find that light line that you went across. Barely visible, but I can see it. And then I just do a couple like that. And we call that continuing lines. So if you just touch down a few spots here and there like that, that clothesline appears because we have created a little bit of the light and dark. And then if we want, we can burnt umber, French ultramarine blue, raw umber. Let's get a little, we can make a little wheel here. Like that. Then we can make our second line. And that second line, we just leave the way it is. Maybe a little touch of white paint there. Like that. And we have our clothesline. We have this pole, which is closer to us, which really gives us some really nice three-dimensional feel. And you can make that darker with some French ultramarine blue and burnt umber. And if you make that darker there, it's going to look even more close to us in the foreground here. Do you see that? How it looks like it's closer? We're making it darker now. Can you see that? That's what you want. Make it darker. And I think this is fine. You can kind of take a break now. Let's just do a little more. Let's do some details on the windows. So I'm going to do a couple. Again, I'm using my yellow ochre and titanium white in the tube. And add a little bit of water to this, maybe. And some more titanium white. Sometimes just really going fast and doing some really expressive strokes like this is going to look better than trying to like really suffer over the fine details of something. So that's always a good thing to remember. Don't sweat the details. Get them in quick, and there you have it. So we have all the details in that we need. Maybe there's a little bit of highlights there on the chimneys, the chimney pots. And I think that's pretty good. I think everything looks fine. Maybe a couple small weeds on the by the poles here. You could add a couple. But this is about it now. Just a few of these kind of details, like to try to make this look a little bit closer. You know, in the foreground, if you add some like that, that will look pretty good. Maybe we're going to do a small detail and maybe a door handle there. I'm trying to think if there's anything else we can do. Okay, let's figure that this is complete. Maybe I'm thinking one more idea is titanium white and that yellow ochre, a little bit of water, and then we just do a little bit of splashes like that. Those splashes will mellow out and become way lighter, so you don't have to worry. And maybe another highlight up here. Be very sparing though with this type of details like that. Just a touch. Okay, I hope everyone had a lot of fun doing this. This is so much fun. It's more of a simple design, you know, not a lot of angles. It's more of a two-dimensional painting for the most part, but we added a lot of interest into it to make it look really beautiful, three-dimensional. And again, we did the glazing technique, which is great. You just do your first wash, so you get a beautiful unified look to the painting right off from the start. And then from there, you just add on your darker glazings as we did throughout the painting, and you just get a really beautiful effect when you're actually completed. We'll take the tape off here, and always remember, we're going to put this on the finished painting on the beginning of the video, so you'll be able to work from this finished painting if you want to at the very beginning of the video. And I think you'll really have fun with this. It's not difficult, but it is, you know, it takes a couple hours, 2-3 hours to get through it. You have to let things dry, as you know, as we covered in this painting. So we did tons of detail, tons of methods, techniques. We explained everything, how you do it, one step at a time, and I hope you will try it out at least a couple times, 2-3 times, until you really get it where you like it and you think it's successful for your level of where you're at in your artwork. And I'm going to put this here. We'll zoom in a little bit. And we'll zoom out. And I think that looks good. We'll see you on the next video. Please subscribe if you haven't. Hit that notification bell. This way, each time you go onto YouTube, you'll know we have a new video out and we're painting again and creating new artwork, and hope you'll join along. And again, thanks for subscribing and for following my channel. We'll see you soon. Bye-bye.